Every few years, the seemingly tranquil Pacific Ocean conceals a secret beneath its surface. A potent force is raging, a climactic phenomenon that influences weather conditions worldwide. Its name is El Niño. From torrential rains triggering catastrophic flooding in South America to severe droughts sparking wildfires in Australia, El Niño is not merely a tropical oddity, it is a global disruptor. But what causes this climatic phenomenon? Let's find out. El Niño, which means the boy in Spanish, impacts ocean water by elevating its temperature by approximately 32.4 to 32.9 degrees Fahrenheit above the average. It was first documented in the 16th century, and this phenomenon is observable across the globe. El Niño can result in floods, droughts, increased CO2 levels, and changes in global temperatures. It initiates from the east-central Pacific Ocean. Consequently, developing countries along the ocean's border and marine life, unprepared for sudden climate changes, suffer the most from the significant warming of water. However, El Niño is not the sole phenomenon influencing global weather. In reality, El Niño is just one phase of a larger climate phenomenon known as the El Niño Southern Oscillation. This cycle can manifest in two other phases. One is La Niña, which is the exact opposite of El Niño. The other is a neutral state where there's no distinct influence from either of them. La Niña, or the girl in Spanish, is a weather phenomenon that induces cooling instead of heating in water. Generally, water temperatures during La Niña decrease by as much as 37 to 41 degrees Fahrenheit. The consequences of this phenomenon for many countries, including the United States and Canada, are severe rainstorms, floods, and more robust hurricane seasons. However, the most challenging aspect is that predicting and preparing for these two phenomena are very difficult. They occur every 2 to 7 years, so their occurrence is irregular. Furthermore, they are not short-term events. El Niño lasts about 9 to 12 months, while La Niña typically persists for 1 to 3 years. El Niño and La Niña don't emerge out of nowhere. Their formation is an intricate process. Under normal conditions in the Pacific Ocean, trade winds move from a high-pressure zone to a low-pressure zone from east to west. These winds direct warm water toward Asian countries and Australia, causing cold water to rise on the coast of South America, a process known as upwelling. This upwelling, rich in nutrients, positively impacts fish catch. If this balance is disrupted, El Niño or La Niña begins. During El Niño, the winds weaken, and warm water is less influenced by wind movement, reducing upwelling. As a result, the Pacific Ocean's water heats up uniformly, even in typically cold areas. This leads to significant changes in rainfall, causing dramatic weather shifts globally. In the tropics, the risk of flooding increases, while Western countries experience heightened droughts. For instance, in the protected area of Pu'uwa'awa'a in Hawaii, under typical conditions, the average January rainfall is about 2.7 inches. However, during El Niño conditions in 2010, only 0.4 inches fell. Over time, the ENSO, El Niño Southern Oscillation, can transition from one phase to another, such as from El Niño to La Niña. During La Niña, winds, on the contrary, strengthen, increasing upwelling and reducing warm water areas in the ocean. This may result in cooling in the western parts of the United States and northern parts of South America, while areas in the Indian Ocean may experience warming. Consequently, the regions bordering the Pacific Ocean suffer the most from these phenomena. Approximately 30 to 60 million people died due to severe droughts and floods in India, China, and Brazil in the 19th century. In the 20th century, 26 cases of El Niño were recorded, significantly affecting the harvests of Western countries. Additionally, various animal populations, including sea lions, were impacted. The primary victims of El Niño are South American countries such as Peru and Ecuador. The economies of these nations rely heavily on fish and fertilizer exports. However, El Niño reduces upwelling, leading to massive fish kills. Increased precipitation also washes away crops and fertilizers, causing damage to civilian infrastructure. On the other hand, droughts loom in eastern regions like Indonesia and Australia. Consequently, water bodies and crops begin to dry up, negatively impacting the standard of living, health of people and animals, as well as land fertility. African eastern countries such as Kenya or Tanzania, as well as American countries, suffer from frequent rains. Meanwhile, South Central countries like Zambia or Mozambique experience drought. The southern United States, particularly Texas, also faces increased precipitation during El Niño. However, in California, the phenomenon brings rain, positively affecting the harvest of crops like lime and avocado. Canadian winters, in particular, are becoming milder. Interestingly, El Niño also impacts Antarctica. Its western part becomes a little warmer, leading to more snowfalls. However, due to a decrease in upwelling, shelf glaciers start to melt. On the other hand, La Niña helps increase the mass of these glaciers, contributing to maintaining the balance. The direct impact of ENSO on European countries is challenging to document. El Niño brings cold and dry winters to the European continent, which can be detrimental to the land. For instance, in the 18th century, El Niño significantly affected the harvests of European countries, likely contributing to the outbreak of the French Revolution in 1789. Already in the 19th century, this phenomenon caused about 3 severe famines in various Asian and European countries. So, El Niño and La Niña are quite dangerous phenomena for our world. The last time El Niño and La Niña were observed was in 2015 and 16, almost 7 years ago. 2016 was the hottest year on record and the most severe of all previous El Niño episodes in the last 50 years, leading to hunger for more than 60 million people. In 2015, equatorial waters were warmer than usual for the entire year. The central part of the ocean then warmed up by almost 37.4 degrees Fahrenheit at its peak in November, and the overall warming temperature was 35 degrees Fahrenheit, likely a record value since 1860. All continents have been affected by El Niño, directly or not. For example, Australia experienced severe droughts, especially in its eastern and northern parts. This resulted in an early start to the fire season on the continent, with a total of 125 fires. The fires severely damaged large areas of nature in Tasmania, including rainforests and swamps that had hardly ever experienced fires before. Moreover, the worst coral bleaching was recorded during this period, a process that causes corals to turn white and become very vulnerable to death. Spring and fall of 2016 in Australia were among the driest on record, significantly affecting the harvest. In addition, the heat reduced supplies of ori, the most exported commodity. Regions in Asia also suffered from different weather conditions. For example, 85% of the Philippines and Indonesia experienced severe drought. Large-scale fires broke out in Indonesia, worsening the air quality in neighboring areas, including Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and others. The fires also affected the export of palm oil, leading to higher prices for the product and consequently for all food that uses the oil. In addition, rice production in Vietnam and Thailand dropped significantly, particularly due to water shortages. In a tit-for-tat move, India cut back on its stockpiles of rice, sugar, cotton, and corn. Up north, China faced a dry spell with droughts, while the south got drenched in rain and suffered from floods. South America took a hard hit from weather-related calamities across the board. The year 2016 brought havoc to Peru, where severe flooding and landslides left around 5,000 people homeless and caused a dip in shrimp production. Over 150,000 individuals had to evacuate flooded areas in Paraguay, Brazil, Argentina, and more. Argentina, in particular, grappled with a massive locust invasion, dealing a heavy blow to its agriculture. As if that wasn't enough, April 2016 saw the return of heavy rains. In Colombia, famine reared its ugly head thanks to relentless droughts. A staggering 2.3 million people found themselves in need of humanitarian aid, as reported by the UN. Meanwhile, the Caribbean grappled with a drinking water shortage, prompting St. Lucia to declare a state of emergency. Brazil played a key role in the global economic ripple caused by El Niño. The fluctuating impact translated into a significant surge in coffee and sugar prices worldwide. Surprisingly, the United States and European countries didn't bear the brunt of El Niño's direct impact. While Missouri, Mississippi, and the United Kingdom experienced above-average precipitation, their economies remained largely unfazed. Finally, the African continent also felt the economic pinch from this phenomenon. In South Africa, there was a drop of 6 million tons in food production. Zimbabwe suffered a loss of 75% of its harvest. 10 million people required humanitarian aid in Ethiopia. To make matters worse, approximately 458,000 children had to be treated for acute malnutrition.